It was a moonless night, the darkness swallowing the winding road ahead. The only illumination came from the feeble glow of the car's headlights, flickering hesitantly against the obsidian canvas of the night. Inside the car, the atmosphere was tense. The silence hung heavy, shattered only by the rhythmic hum of the engine. The driver, a man named Nick, gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled hands, his eyes darting nervously from the road to the rearview mirror. Nick had been driving for hours, trying to outrun the demons of his past. He stole a glance at the passenger seat, where a map lay crumpled and forgotten. His heart pounded in his chest, echoing the anxiety that gnawed at his insides. Unbeknownst to him, he was not alone on this desolate stretch of road. Unseen in the darkness, a figure lurked, a malevolent specter with an insatiable hunger for fear. The maniac, cloaked in shadows, had been tailing Nick's car for miles, a sinister grin stretching across his face. He reveled in the anticipation of the horrors he would unleash. As Nick continued his desperate flight, unaware of the danger closing in, the maniac's sinister laughter mingled with the night wind, chilling the very marrow of Nick's bones. The maniac's car trailed Nick's like a ghostly apparition, matching his every turn and acceleration. Nick's breaths came in ragged gasps, his mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. He tried to shake off the feeling of being hunted, but it clung to him like a shadow, a constant reminder of his vulnerability. In the rearview mirror, Nick caught a glimpse of the maniac, a fleeting, distorted face shrouded in darkness. Panic surged through him, and he pressed his foot down on the accelerator, urging the car to go faster. The engine roared in response, but the maniac's car kept pace, the headlights looming larger in Nick's mirror. Desperation clawed at Nick's throat as he searched for an escape route. His eyes darted to the sides of the road, but there was nothing but dense forest, swallowing him whole. The maniac seemed to revel in Nick's despair, his laughter echoing through the night. Nick's mind raced, his thoughts a jumbled mess of terror. He needed help, but there was no signal on his phone, no signs of civilization in sight. The road stretched out endlessly before him, a nightmarish ribbon leading him deeper into the heart of darkness. As Nick's car hurtled forward, the maniac's car drew closer, its headlights now blinding in their intensity. Nick's heart pounded in his chest, drowning out all other sounds. He was trapped, a prey in a deadly game, and the maniac was closing in for the kill. Nick's mind raced as he weighed his options, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. The maniac's laughter grew louder, echoing through the confines of the car, a cruel reminder of his impending doom. With a surge of determination, Nick decided to take a chance and veered off the road onto a narrow dirt path, hoping against hope that it would lead him to safety. The path was rough, jostling the car and rattling Nick's nerves. He glanced at the rearview mirror, his heart sinking as he saw the maniac's car following, undeterred by the treacherous terrain. Nick pushed the car harder, praying it wouldn't betray him now. Suddenly, the path opened up into a clearing. Nick's eyes widened in disbelief as he saw an old, abandoned house looming ahead. It was a decrepit structure, consumed by the darkness and the passage of time, but it offered a glimmer of hope. Nick's foot slammed on the brakes, and he skidded to a stop in front of the house. Without a second thought, he bolted out of the car and sprinted towards the house. The door creaked open with eerie slowness as he forced his way inside. The air was thick with dust and the smell of decay, but it was sanctuary compared to the nightmare outside. Nick barricaded the door as best as he could, his trembling hands fumbling with a rusted metal rod he found in the hallway. He could hear the maniac's footsteps approaching, slow and deliberate, like a predator closing in on its prey. Nick's breath caught in his throat as he realized he had only moments to find a hiding place. He stumbled through the darkness, his hands trailing along the walls until he found a closet. With a silent prayer, he squeezed inside, pulling the door shut behind him. His heart thundered in his chest, and he held his breath, praying the maniac wouldn't find him. Outside the closet, the maniac entered the house, his footsteps growing louder as he approached. Nick's eyes were wide with terror, his hands pressed tightly over his mouth to stifle any sound. He could hear the maniac's breathing now, heavy and ragged, as he searched the house room by room. In the darkness, Nick waited, every nerve stretched taut. The seconds felt like hours as he listened to the maniac's movements, praying for a miracle. The maniac's footsteps echoed through the house, growing louder as he approached the closet where Nick hid. The darkness within the cramped space seemed to press in on Nick, suffocating him with fear. He clutched the metal rod tighter, ready to defend himself if the need arose. Outside the closet, the maniac paused, as if sensing Nick's presence. Silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. Nick's heart hammered in his chest, the sound deafening in the stillness of the night. He dared not breathe, fearing the slightest noise would betray his hiding spot. The maniac's hand gripped the closet door, and Nick's breath caught in his throat. The door creaked open, revealing the dim outline of the maniac's form. Time seemed to stand still as their eyes met in the darkness, a silent battle of wills. With a sudden, primal instinct, Nick swung the metal rod with all his strength. It connected with a sickening thud, and the maniac cried out in pain, collapsing to the floor. Adrenaline surged through Nick's veins as he scrambled out of the closet, his eyes wide with desperation. He didn't pause to catch his breath. Instead, he ran, his footsteps echoing through the empty halls of the house. He needed to find a way out, to escape this nightmare once and for all. As he sprinted through the decaying corridors, he spotted a window. Without hesitation, he smashed it open and climbed out, ignoring the shards of glass that bit into his skin. Nick landed in the overgrown backyard, panting and disheveled. The moonlight filtered through the dense canopy of trees, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance around him. He didn't stop running, his legs carrying him as far away from the house as possible. Hours passed before Nick finally stumbled upon a road. A passing car, its headlights illuminating the darkness, stopped to offer help. He collapsed inside, his words tumbling out in a frantic rush as he begged for assistance. The driver, a kind-hearted stranger, called the authorities, and Nick was finally safe from the clutches of the maniac. In the days that followed, the police combed through the old house, confirming Nick's horrifying ordeal. The maniac, it was discovered, had a long history of violence, leaving a trail of victims in his wake. Nick's escape was nothing short of miraculous. Gabriel sat behind the wheel of his old SUV as night fell. He and his friends had set out for a weekend getaway, but something had gone wrong. His friends had vanished into the impenetrable darkness after their joyous trip, leaving Gabriel alone on the road, surrounded by shadows. He switched on the headlights, but the road seemed like an endless black ribbon, disappearing into the vast forests. Suddenly, his mobile phone rang. Gabriel picked it up, hoping to hear his friend's voice, but all he heard was steady breathing. "Who is this?" he asked, but there was no reply. His heart began to race. He decided to keep driving, hoping to find traces of his friends. Hours passed, and Gabriel kept moving forward, encountering no one. The dead silence was broken only by the sound of rain and the howling wind. His attention was caught by an old roadside sign. It read, "Beware of attention." It sounded strange and cryptic, but Gabriel decided to ignore it and pressed on. Soon, he saw a faint light ahead. Hope flickered in his chest. As he approached, he discovered an abandoned gas station. He stopped, hoping to find something useful. After a few minutes, he stumbled upon an old journal. Inside, there were entries from previous travelers, including his friends. All the entries ended with a mysterious warning: beware of attention. Gabriel began to feel that something ominous lurked on this road. Everything around him seemed alien and incomprehensible. He decided to return to his car and continue his journey, hoping to find his friends. Consumed by the search for his friends, Gabriel decided to follow the directions on the old road signs. He kept moving forward, trying not to dwell on the strange entries in the journal. but the darkness around him seemed to grow denser, and the tree shadows appeared to be watching him, hiding something dark and incomprehensible. His phone rang again. He picked up, but this time, only a whisper could be heard. "Beware of attention," repeated the mysterious voice before falling silent. Gabriel tried to ask questions, but whoever was calling had already slipped away. Doubts began to plague his mind. He felt that something was wrong, that an unseen force was manipulating him like a puppet on strings. He needed answers. With this in mind, he decided to return to the abandoned gas station where he found the journal. There, in the glow of a lantern, he discovered an antique photo album. The pictures showed people resembling his friends, but something was off. Their eyes were filled with fear and desperation, as if they had seen something dreadful. Gabriel continued flipping through the album until he stumbled upon a peculiar notation. It was a map, but not an ordinary one. It depicted the forests and roads, but with unusual markings and symbols. He realized that this might be the key to unraveling the mystery of this place. Gabriel resolved to follow this map, hoping it would lead him to his friends and uncover the secrets of this eerie and mystical place. Following the cryptic map from the old album, Gabriel set out on the twisting paths indicated. The forest grew denser, the trees closing in around him, whispering secrets he couldn't comprehend. Each step he took seemed to echo with a sense of foreboding. The map led him to a clearing where an ancient, decrepit mansion loomed in the moonlight. Approaching cautiously, Gabriel pushed open the creaky door, revealing the dimly lit interior. Cobwebs hummed like ghostly drapes, and dust motes danced in the air. The mansion seemed frozen in time, as if holding onto a tragic secret. As Gabriel ventured deeper, he stumbled upon a room filled with old documents and faded photographs. The photographs depicted people from different eras, all wearing expressions of terror. Among the documents, he found references to a mysterious entity called the Watcher, a being rumored to feed on attention, growing stronger with every fearful gaze. The more attention it received, the more powerful and malevolent it became. Gabriel's heart raced as he realized the truth. The warning, "Beware of attention," was a caution against acknowledging the presence of the Watcher. His friends, it seemed, had fallen victim to this malevolent force, their fear only fueling its power. Driven by desperation, Gabriel delved deeper into the mansion's secrets. In an ancient library, he discovered a ritual designed to banish the Watcher. Gathering the necessary items, he prepared to confront the entity that held his friends captive. With trembling hands, Gabriel performed the ritual, reciting incantations from an ancient tome. The air grew thick with tension as he felt the presence of the Watcher drawing near. Shadows danced on the walls, and the temperature dropped, sending shivers down his spine. Suddenly, the Watcher manifested before him, a twisted, nightmarish figure with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce his soul. Gabriel stood his ground, determined to free his friends and put an end to the entity's reign of terror. With unwavering resolve, Gabriel uttered the final words of the ritual, channeling all his strength and courage. The room shook, and the Watcher let out a blood-curdling scream as it began to dissipate, its form flickering like a dying candle. Gabriel could feel the release of trapped energy, the mansion trembling with the force of liberation. In the aftermath, the mansion began to crumble, its dark influence lifted. Gabriel rushed back to his car, hoping against hope that his friends were still alive. As he drove back down the once ominous road, he noticed a subtle change in the atmosphere. The forest, once heavy with malevolence, now seemed serene. Arriving at the gas station, where his journey had taken a sinister turn, Gabriel found his friends, dazed and confused, but alive. They embraced, relief washing over them like a tidal wave. Gabriel recounted his harrowing experience, and they all vowed never to speak of the Watcher again, ensuring it would fade into obscurity, deprived of the attention it so desperately craved. The friends drove back home, forever changed by their nightmarish ordeal. The memory of that fateful night would haunt their dreams, a reminder of the darkness that existed just beyond the edges of their reality. But they emerged stronger, bound together by a shared experience that defied explanation, a testament to the strength of friendship and the resilience of the human spirit.